Hello, everyone. Welcome to Telling Tales. I am Matt, your game master for Symbaroum. Welcome back to Symbaroum as well. It's been a while since we played this wonderful dark fantasy game. It's the system we started the channel with, and it remains our most popular series, I think, even though it's been away for a couple of months now. And we're delighted to be bringing it back. And more than that, we are delighted to be bringing you the first installment in the ongoing Throne of Thorns campaign, the main campaign for Symbaroum from Fria Ligan, which is now 5 volumes long. The 6th one is still to come, and it'll be a long while before we get there. But we're picking up first tonight with the first installment, The Wrath of the Warden. Oh, exciting times, exciting times. So let's start as we always do by bringing on John, our stream manager, who basically makes everything tick, does the art and the cams and the modding and blah, 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 blah. Hi, John. How are you?
What you're basically saying is I'm the most important person here.
Yeah, you are. Yeah. Far more important. I'm at the bottom of the pile. Yeah, are you excited for Throne of Thorns, John?
Yes.
You've heard me talking about it a little bit, I remember telling you kind of how Throne of Thorns starts and like the first stretch of it, and John was just sat there like, "Oh my god!" So
they're gonna have fun.
They're going to have fun. They are going to have fun. So there we go. If John pops up, don't worry. It's just that something's gone terribly wrong. But now we will banish John to the darkness of Davokar. And I'll do a little bit of promo. So there's a bunch of links below. YouTube and Twitch. You're watching on one. Please check out the other. Links to our social media, to our Discord, where you can join up and talk about all things role-play and telling tales, to our Patreon, where you can sign up and support us if you like and get some lovely treats in return. We run 3 weekly series at 8 o'clock. Cthulhu. Tuesdays is Blades in the Dark on Wednesday. Hey, it's Symbaroum. You're here. You should know that. We also run a one-shot on the first Saturday of every month. We've had some really good ones this year. The VODs for those are all available on our YouTube. The next one is coming this Saturday. That's going to be the One Ring, which is the Lord of the Rings roleplay system. Now a new edition coming out by Fria Ligan. And I'm running that this Saturday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon BST, and I'm adapting a story from the Lord of the Rings Online. Oh my word, I'm talking fast. We also run a spin-off to our main Symbaroum campaign every other week, fortnightly on Sundays. We do that over on the Fria Ligan channel because we're their friends. And the climax of that is actually coming in 2 weeks. Or rather a week and a half, which probably gives you just enough time to go and watch all the previous episodes of it on our YouTube, and then catch up with us for that. That's the promo done. Let's start bringing on the players. We have our 3 of our usual Symbaroum crew, and we also have a new Symbaroum player, although anyone who's been paying attention on Coriolis on Wednesdays over the last couple of months will be familiar with him. And we're just going to bring them on. They're going to talk a little bit about their characters, but we're not going to do too much of a recap, because there's a lot to go into. There is, in fact, a story so far video, if anyone is interested in that, over on our YouTube. Maybe John can throw a link for it in the chat over the next couple of minutes. And yeah, but we're not going to do that. We're going to kind of try and focus on getting into the story. So first off, let's bring on Chris. Chris plays Steo, the former infantryman, certainly with the bearing of an infantryman, and city guard, traumatized older gentleman. Hi Chris.
How's it going? I'm excited. I hope everyone else is as well.
Yeah, well, I certainly am. I've been waiting for this for quite a long time. So definitely. So Steo has returned to Thistlehold, which is the home in inverted commas of all the members of the party, at least currently. He's returned from his travels, kind of probably weary and bowed a little bit. Is there anything in particular you think Steo's been up to in the last few months or so? I think you returned around the end of spring. It's now the beginning of autumn.
Okay, I think Steo would have probably been spending a lot of his first few weeks and months back just drinking and trying to find whatever therapy he can on the streets of the town. like Thistlehold.
Absolutely. Thistlehold, best thought of as a kind of, I suppose, like a frontier town, ringed with a wall of vast wooden trunks, with a beacon at the center of it, lit at all hours of the day and night to try and ward off the darkness from the forest, only 200 paces to the north of it. And speaking of the forest, 200 paces to the north of it, let's bring on a character who spends their time scouting out in that forest quite a bit, played by Sam. It's Ascarai, our changeling ranger, rangeling ranger,
Yes.
kind of person. Sam, how are you?
Pretty good. Very excited to be starting this campaign. It was very good playing the little bits we did before. I mean, that felt like a pretty big campaign to me, and now we're doing the actual big campaign. Should be good.
Well, last time it was padded out because obviously, like we played the Copper Crown trilogy, and that has three, kind of, as it might imagine, 3 parts to it. But that had all sorts of other side stories thrown into it as well. It'll be a bit more focused, at least for a while. So there we go. How's Ascarai been spending his few months off in Thistlehold?
I think he probably has been spending a reasonable amount of time in Thistlehold. We had some kind of business in the forest still that he might have been taking care of. I know there's a man who swindled us in Jakar. Perhaps he's been had a quick search for him, and also
trying to track him down.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that sounds good. Well, then, let's bring on the third member of our group. It's Mike, who plays Anton, a Theurg of Prios. That's kind of a cleric-type character, right? Dedicated to Prios, the god of the burning sun. Antom's, it's fair to say, been going through something of a crisis of faith since his arrival in the north. He had dreams of, preaching salvation to the barbarians and the treasure hunters here, and ended up as one of the latter himself. But it's fine. It's fine. He's just probably brained a few more people than he thought he would with a flail, and burned himself a little more than he probably would have liked. But he's doing all right, right?
I don't know if he is doing all right. I think he's probably suffering from a bit of post-traumatic stress disorder. Definitely had his face shaken, as you say. I think that within him, like, there is still like a love of Prios, but I think that his original mission to come to the north to spread the word of God, like through the formal structures of the church, that's gone out the window now, and he very much sees this as like a personal sort of like journey with his faith, and to maybe convert others on a more sort of like personal level rather than like through the church. Having said that, I think he's probably been in Thistlehold doing quite a lot of praying, maybe at the church, or maybe like at more like kind of smaller shrines or
will he have bothered going back and reporting into Keller, his superior at the church?
I think that out of a sense of obligation, and through just generally being trying to be a stand-up guy, he would have gone into the church, but it would have been a cursory visit at most.
Absolutely. Yeah, sounds about right. Well, then, it's time for us to introduce our new player, Stephen, and Stephen's character, Elindra, a disgraced former novice Templar. Templars being kind of the military arm of the Church of Prios. Look at that lovely new art from John. There we go, wonderful. Character art for the other characters will be kind of brought up to this new look over the coming weeks. But this is our first taster of that. So for anyone who's been watching or been watching the story so far, how does Elindra actually figure in with our group? I thought about just introducing her as a brand new character, just bringing in via another method, but we thought, no, let's, Stephen's backstory kind of melded with where we were going to a certain degree. So Elindra has been cast out of the Templars for reasons which may remain anonymous at the moment, depending on how anonymous Stephen wants to leave them, and found herself sometime later in Castor, where our last story took place, and also found herself associating with the Temple of the Many there, the underground heretical group who ended up actually aiding our party in casting a horrible monster-worshipping cult out of the town. And after it was done and Elindra had lent her sword to the cleansing of the town, alongside the town guard and the Temple of the Many, Elindra decided to travel to Thistlehold with our group, and so they already know each other, and we will bring their acquaintance closer as our story picks up. But yeah, does that about cover it, Stephen?
Yes, I think it does. I think that's a good introduction. I'm
Awesome.
excited to be coming and playing, and exciting to have the first of the character portraits in color.
It's very nice, isn't it? It's very good. Cool. All right, then. That sounds like we're just about ready to start. So, with that in mind, let's talk just a little bit about kind of purchases that may have been made in terms of gold and XP, like how you've brought your characters up to date a little bit. And we'll also talk a little bit about how much time you might have spent together, and you know what interactions you may have had. I don't want to do too much on it, but let's do a little bit of that, because I feel like, you know, filling in a little bit of the blanks of these past 4 months or so would probably be a good idea. So let's go around you. I'll go around you one by one. We'll talk about any purchases you may have made in cash or XP over the last, or any changes to your character. We'll skip over Elindra because obviously not so much. And then we'll talk about what you might have done in the meantime. So Chris, did Steo buy any kind of XP based stuff since Castor?
No, I am desperately saving up for my 3rd level in Polar Mastery, and I'm close, my friends, close.
Close. But I believe now you left the Tomb of Dying Dreams with a big chest of Symbaroum silver coins, I think, or
gold
coins. Now, you've spent some of that in Castor on bribes, but you still have some left, and I believe there was talk of A, selling it, and B, divvying it up 4 ways between the original group and Ephinaea's family. Ephinea, played by our previous player, Elle, who lost her life in the Tomb of Dying Dreams. So, yeah, if that's what you want to do, you know what? Why don't you give me a persuasion roll, Steo, and we'll see how much you cash in that Symbaric gold for. I'm happy for you to... See, this is how it's been too long since I played Symbaroum. Is there any assistance sort of thing from any assistance mechanism in Symbaroum? I don't think there is per se, but
you can reduce difficulty. I remember if we got an assistance for roles like this. I think
it's just a modifier.
Modifier.
I think it's just a standard modifier. So, does anyone in the group have a higher persuasion than Steo?
7 is my persuasion.
10.
I think that's 5.
Okay. You know what, you can take... well, you know what? You roll it, because we're saying you're doing it, but roll against Anton's persuasion. Because I reckon it's the kind of thing where you may have taken the Theurg along.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. 50-50 coin flip. I rolled 36. Let me just correct.
That's not good.
50-50 coin clip on the correct dice. I rolled an 8, which is a success against 10.
There we go. Okay, so that's a success. So you can sell that for 650 thaler. So that's 650 thaler. I'm taking it goes 4 ways, which I don't think is possible, but you know, whatever.
Well, it's 162.5, so I carried it, so I'll take the remainder. But I think that's about
sure. So in that case, Askarai and Anton, you can take 162 thaler, and Steo, you take what, 163 or something. Someone keeps knocking on my front door every hour or so today, and I haven't answered it once yet because they haven't put anything through the letterbox. So clearly, I have no interest in whatever they have to sell me. Yeah, that sounds like quite a lot of thaler. Chris, do you know offhand anything you might purchase with that?
I wonder, long-term viewers, if there's any expensive item that I might be after with this sudden windfall. I will be taking a set of full Ambrian plate bought with gusto from the salons of Symbaroum by a man very smugly walking in and appraising the armor as well. Ex-Ambrian military only.
Absolutely. You've been after this a good long while now, and let's I'm sure you have it written down anyway, but yeah, full Ambrian plate costs you 50 thaler, my friend, and it is a D8 protection, obviously modified by anything you have in your abilities. Does Man at Arms change?
It does. Gives me a dice step, so it is a D10
D10. And also it has it would normally be an impeding of -4, but because you have man at arms, is that just removed entirely?
Yes, because I do have the apprentice, the middle tier of Man at Arms.
Adept, I believe.
Adept, that's the one.
So it's just removed entirely, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it would. The thing is, it would be anyway because it has the trait of flexible. It would be less. It would be at -2, but because it's man's arms, it's removed entirely, right? So,
what I'm doing is not min-maxy, really. I suppose what I'm doing is more kind of characterful because Theo wants his plate back.
Wants his plate back, absolutely. So yeah, there we go. Ambrian full plate armor for Steo. Anything else? Obviously, you have your spear that you got from the Tomb of Dying Dreams as well. That I'm assuming, still using there.
Yeah, I obviously Steo is very interested in learning the history of this weapon. I don't know if we want to factor that in now as a downtime action, or if I'll get the opportunity to do it later. But
I think we'll look at that later, shall we? We'll look at that later. I am also going to charge you guys, and someone at some point will have to calculate this. So the cost is like basically a shilling per day for just living, right? So a thaler is 10 shillings, is that right?
Sounds about right, yeah.
That's right, isn't it? So you know what? Let's call it 4 months. So 4 months is 120 days. So let's knock off. So that's 12 thaler, right? Mm-hmm. So just knock off. Each of you knock off 12 thaler for just living expenses, and we'll leave it there. So it's not too much. So Steo, sounds like you didn't have any more particular purchases to make.
I just a quick hold there. Sorry, I'm going to knock off like 18 thaler on drink because he probably have gone off the rails a little bit. Caught himself up though, and has been spending a lot of time training. But on top of that, I would like to buy, and I want to maintain a stock of herbal cures.
Okay, sure.
So I'll buy like 5 herbal cures, and I'll kind of rotate them as they go off. So I'll how much is one, and I'll.
They are a thaler each.
Yes, let's say maybe I spend like 10 thaler keeping the stock up to date and in vogue.
Because, of course, they have a greater ability for you because you have Medicus, right? Do they do
Correct,
1d4 or something like that? Yeah.
No, 1d4 is basic. It goes up to 1d6.
No, 1 is basic.
Oof.
They just do 1 if you use them without Medicus.
Okay.
It'll be listed under Medicus, but anyway. Cool. So that's Steo dealt with. Ascarai. Have you bought anything with your XP since Bell Tolls for Castor?
I'm still saving up my XP. I want level 2 of Marksman with the aim of eventually getting level 3 Marksman because it's really, really good. But I'm on 19 XP, so hopefully by the end of this session I'll have enough for level 2 Marksman at least.
Yeah. Sounds good. Chris has just posted in our private chat. Yeah, so the thing about a herbal cure is it doesn't just cure more when you just use it on its own, but when you're rolling a Medicus roll, if you're using a herbal cure, you get to roll a D4 instead of a D6 instead of a D4. So that's how that works. Any purchases you've made, Ascarai?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that seem really good. I mean, definitely not going to spend the whole amount. It seems like loads of money, but I would like to get a composite bow for 25 thaler, which is kind of like a normal bow, but has deep impact, so there's an extra damage.
Mm-hmm.
Seems good. And the other thing I'd quite like, there's a few different arrows that I need to take a look at, but I probably would have bought some of those. I haven't fully decided yet.
Sure.
And finally, instead of the normal light armor, I think I would like to buy some woven silk armor, which is still light armor but has flexible, so it doesn't cause the impeding.
It doesn't have any impeding at all, so that brings your defense up by 2.
Yeah,
right there. Yeah,
nice.
It's a composite bow from the Advanced Player's Guide.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's just deep impact. What does deep impact do, Sam?
It basically means it does one extra damage. So it's not like you roll your dice and then you just add 1 damage.
Add 1 to it. Yeah. Which in some ways is more reliable than going up like a die step if you go up from a D8 to a D10 or something, because it's it's definitely always at least half of what you get, right? So that's how odds work. I know these things. Cool. So a composite bow and some woven silk armor for Ascarai. Wonderful. Mike, what have you spent your XP on since Castor, if anything?
I think I would upgrade my flail, possibly to a heavy flail, which is a D10 instead of a D8.
Nice.
Because when Ansem hits, he wants to hit hard.
Yeah.
And that would be a jointed weapon as well, which does some extra stuff. What does it say? Even if a parry is successful, the attack hits if the die lands on an odd number, in which case the weapon deals 1d6 of damage.
That's really strong. Considering because obviously one of your problems is you miss a lot. That's really strong.
But that's only if it's parried, I think, not if I fail the attack roll.
That's the same thing though, isn't it?
Is it? Okay.
That doesn't mean if they block with their armor.
That's what I interpreted it as.
Oh, let's have a quick look. No, I don't think so. I think a parry is I'm pretty sure a parry is just if the defense is rolled successfully. If John could have a look, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. So you guys have a heavy flail. Anything else?
Well, I was thinking about an armor upgrade, but I've got my blessed robe, which is a light armor at the minute, and I think honestly, the medium armors are probably just out of character for Anselm. I think it would look daft if he was walking around in a sort of the silk cuirass, which is the lightest of the medium armors. So I think he's probably just bought bandages, 5 of the herbal cures, similar to Steo. That sort of stuff. Probably.
No, you finish.
I was just going to say, speaking of the blessed robe, which I just mentioned, I think Ansem might have refreshed his garments, his wardrobe a little bit, because his old ones were probably a little bit
saucy, to say the least.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's more than acceptable. And have you bought anything with XP since we last checked?
No, not with XP. I'm saving up, and I think I went for 5 sessions without really getting much in the way of XP because of
you'd burning it. You burnt it on rerolls. That seems perfectly legit. John says, according to the example given underneath, that's what I looked at as well. Yeah, it's just making the hit.
Okay.
So that's incredibly strong. Nice. So basically, half the time you miss, you hit for less.
Yeah. It's a D6, really which isn't amazing, but it's better than nothing, right? Yeah.
It's absolutely something. Great. Okay, that's all that stuff dealt with. How about Chris has more. Here we go.
Sorry, I was just tidying up my equipment list and noted I did salvage that Noble's Ambrian longsword from the from the throwback campaign earlier on. So a bastard sword is 50 thaler and a standard heavy weapon is 10 thaler. So if you want to maybe give me 20 for it, I'll just fence that.
Sorry, like an Ambrian longsword, do you say?
Yeah,
where
that
was this from? Sorry,
this was from. Remember the episode 0's archaeology expedition.
Yeah, you picked up Elle's character's longsword. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and you're just selling it.
Yeah, I'm just selling it. I mean, it's a nice weapon, but I'm not a sword user, and I don't think anyone else is.
Sure,
and it's not a mechanically nice weapon.
I thought you might try and find someone who it belonged to, or something like that, because it's clearly of an Ambrian noble family. So
do you know what? That's a very good point.
Shall we just say for now, it's gathering dust in the back of Steo's hovel somewhere?
Yeah. But also, aren't you intending to give FNA's family a load of money, and at some point they're going to go, were there any possessions that you recovered?
No, this was Elle's prologue character, not FNA.
Oh, okay, right.
No. FNA's Black Gift, the sword vanished under the tons of rubble in the Tomb of Dying Dreams alongside her, I'm afraid. Okay, here we go. Right. Throne of Thorns campaign, Part 1, Wrath of the Warden, Page 1. John, can you bring me up, please? And the image of Thistlehold, the one I really like, you know the one I mean, with the beacon in the background and stuff. While I read out just a little bit of an intro section for you guys. How about that? If I can actually find it, that is. Any second now, I will. There we go. Lovely. Although, you know what? I'm going to be contradictory here, John. Can you give us Toad Square instead? Because the thing I'm about to read out literally starts with "in Toad Square" or something like that. So that would seem more appropriate. There we go. The northern square of Thistlehold, where that statue / genuine bones of some monstrous toad-like creature sits at the center of the square. Here we go. The rain beats down on the Toad Square, and dawn comes creeping in like a barely noticeable shift between heavy skies. Autumn has arrived in Narragor and in Thistlehold. It is a time for the successful to sit back and wait for more favourable travelling weather, a time for the families of the diseased to fear the hardships to come, a time for the desperate to make a final attempt. In other words, a typical autumn among those living in the shadow of Davokar. But despite everything being as usual, the past few days have been characterized by a strangely subdued, almost sinister atmosphere. Everyone feels it, even the successful ones who should have nothing to worry about. A lump in the throat, a fiery ache in the belly. Most keep the feeling to themselves, thinking it is caused by the shifting weather. The rest says a few words to their neighbour, friend or lover, but let it rest once they have been assured that everything is as it should be. The only person who seems to take the sensation seriously is Crazy Torald, standing drenched outside the salons of Symbaroum, raving about her nightly dream visions, about a recurring bellowing which is drowned out by the roar of the wind and the hammering rains. But just as the town starts to wake, she also is silenced, by 4 guards of the town watch dragging her away to the penitentiary, accused of public disturbance. All goes silent. All is still. Everyone awakes to a new day, with a lump in the throat and a fiery ache in the belly. So, Thistlehold, autumn. How much time do you think you guys would have been spending together over the intervening months? Do you think you'd socialize especially? Do you think you would have seen each other just at the agency when checking in? Or would you have spent time perhaps at the Witch and Familiar, where some of you maybe still stay, the tavern where you, a long time ago, fought off wild dogs that had somehow made their way inside?
I would be at the Witch and Familiar for sure. And I probably would have been keen to see the other guys because I don't really know that many other people here. And I'm obviously not devoting myself to the church anymore.
Yeah,
I think over time Anton would have graduated off my least favorite friend list and into a normal drinking buddy territory. So we'd probably be spending some evenings together at the Witch and Familiar.
I think while Askar has been around Thistlehold, he'd definitely see the other guys as well.
Absolutely. My guess, and this will be, feel free to correct me, Stephen, is that maybe Alindra has been going her own way a little bit. You don't know these people all that well, but maybe cross paths at the agency a few times, that kind of thing. Does that sound about right? That level of interaction?
Yeah, I think so. So I think I would be signed up to the agency. I think they are almost certainly the only people that I knew in Thistlehold prior to arriving here. Mm-hmm. There is every chance that if the Witch and Familiar is sufficiently cheap that I may be staying there as well, just on their recommendation.
Friends of this group would certainly get a discount at the Witch and Familiar, and it's not overly. It's quite a nice tavern, but it's not overly expensive.
Yeah. So I think I would be around, but obviously haven't quite got the relationships that the rest of the party have formed. Absolutely. Prior to that.
Well, then let's say let's set the scene. It's a late, sort of maybe about noon in autumn. Perhaps you've arranged to meet up for a drink together. And let's say that Steo and Ascarai and Antom are already there, sat around in the Witch and the Familiar. The setting of the interior, the Witch and the Familiar is a barbarian inn. And as such, the walls, kind of every effort has been made to integrate like nature and vegetation into the actual building inside. So the wooden interior is covered in moss and soft vegetation. There are kind of stuffed animal heads and entire kind of stuffed bodies scattered around. And if one caught a glimpse out of them at the corner of your eye, you'd think it was actual, animal life roaming the vegetation. There are no tables. There are just kind of some softer areas on the floor where they're like moss covered stones or cushions, and there's constantly a pleasant smell as the innkeeper makes some kind of food in the back room, washing out. So let's say Alindra, we're going to pick up with you. I'm going to pick up with you walking into the Witch and Familiar and seeing Steo, Ascarai, and Antom just kind of lounging around one corner of the Witch and Familiar, probably having maybe some bowls of stew and probably some probably not very hard liquor at this time of day, maybe some mead or some small beer, that kind of thing.
Okay. I will... Room for one more?
Please, take a seat.
How are you all?
The day is treating us very well. I'll raise my tankard of small beer.
My bones are telling me it's autumn. Were you at the agency?
Yeah, it's slow.
You're going to come a bad end going into that forest for fun or profit. Money and trouble is the only two things that come out of there. That's what I always say, isn't it, Ascarai?
Yeah, you're not wrong. But we certainly got the better end of it last time, I suppose.
That's true enough.
As you kind of start making conversation, the innkeeper brings over a bowl of stew for Alindra as well, and kind of nods and greets you all. His hospitality not really changed since you saved his inn from being torn apart by wild animals probably around a year ago now. He says desperately trying to find the name of the character here on his. He is called
Alamar.
Chris with the
switcheroo
ninja-ing of that. He is called Alamar. I believe I described him in the past as a fairly big guy with kind of like braided beard and balding at the top. And he brings you over a bowl of stew and kind of nods happily to you all and goes back to kind of scrubbing out the interior of some kind of mugs with a rather ragged and dirty looking cloth. And as he heads back, another individual walks into the door. The Witch and Familiar isn't a terribly busy tavern, especially at this time of day. It is a tiny goblin girl who walks in literally with hat in hand, a filthy red and grey cap. She kind of blinks a bit as her eyes adjust to the relative darkness inside the Witch and Familiar and peers around until she sees your group. She visibly kind of counts you and then looks quite pleased with herself and walks over to you. Is anyone likely to engage with her directly, or do you want me to just pick one of you for her to try and talk to?
I might just give her an Orteg. She's got her hat out.
Sure. She kind of holds the cap out and says, "Oh, thank you, my lord," and kind of bends over slightly and kind of takes the Orteg out and like tucks it back in the cap very happily. She rummages around in the battered, full of holes coat she's wearing and draws out a leather-dressed, tube-shaped capsule and holds it out to you.
What is this?
A message, my lord, for you and your friends.
Not sure Ascarai's drawn a lord's salary. Who's it from?
She's she's a human. She
Well,
had a cape on. I don't know. She said to bring this here to you.
Oh, smells like trouble. I'll ask Gry.
She kind of goes to hold her hand out for coin, and then kind of shakes herself and realizes you just gave her an Orteg, and sort of looks in her cap and has like quite a big smile on her face and is trotting out already, presumably anticipating where she's going to spend such luxurious coin.
Guess I'll open this message.
Sure. Well then, inside is of course a message, a scroll of paper which you can pull out and unravel. And you know what? If only we had that letter to put on screen for you to read. There we go. Do you want to read that out for us, Ascarai?
Okay. Dear soon-to-be friend, meet me with haste at the Fern Tavern in the district northwest of the intersection Inadaz Road, the promenade. My errand is urgent and of a nature best discussed eye to eye. Of you and your friends, I ask only that you take a leap of faith and that you listen to my proposal. In return, I promise to not disappoint. I and the other people I represent have vast resources and are prepared to offer a royal compensation for your services.
There we go.
Signed nobody, I notice.
Is this how you get work in this town?
It is not how we get work in this town. I'm not up for trouble, lads.
This sounds very much how we get work in this town, by taking the so-called leap of faith that someone talks about, and we get roped into doing something that doesn't sit well with any of us, but we find ourselves having to do it anyway.
Burn it. Burn the note. Oh, God.
The last time we received a mysterious
Burn it.
letter...
Leave thistle holes. Ignore all this. throw the throne of thorns in the bin. Get rid of it.
Pool our money together and buy a nice farm somewhere.
I'm
Let's
so
turn it
in.
into the TTRPG Stardew Valley.
The last time we received a letter like this, we did end up in the jail of Castor.
Worst Davokar.
True. Still, though.
I've been here 4 months. No goblin has brought me a letter.
Yeah, how many copper crowns have you destroyed?
None.
How many dear friends have you seen crushed beneath masonry thousands of years old?
Yeah,
I didn't like them that much. Yeah, no, none really. There was a boy when I was young. Part of the temple collapsed. It's a long story.
maybe now is a good time to point out that the letter did say that this was an urgent matter.
And compensated for royally.
The closer we get to it, the more irrefusable their bargain's going to be. You know how these things work. This is not your first trip round the tree either.
It's true, but what are we going to do? Eventually we're going to burn through all these Thala.
All these Thala. That must be
Very
nice.
well. Yeah, once again, how many copper crowns have you destroyed?
No one's given me any copper crowns to destroy.
That's for the best.
It's certainly unusual to receive a job offer as directly as this. Obviously, you're all signed up to the agency, and normally people just go to the agency if they want work. But this sounds like someone is asking for you very specifically.
We're going to need work eventually, as Ascarai says, but we have the luxury of time to pick and choose the work that we want. But it makes sense to hear out what people have to say, what jobs they have to offer.
I agree.
Okay, but I'm not going back in the forest.
Sure. John, can you bring up a map of Thistlehold for us, please? I just want to indicate for you where the Fern Tavern is, if I can. So the Fern Tavern Do you see the number? If you look at the top center of Thistlehold there, you see a number 17. If you look like just below that, there's kind of quite a broad road running east-west. I believe we talked about that before as Halaban's Ring, which is like part of a long arc of a road that cuts off that very top northern end of Thistlehold, and it's kind of the roughest area of Thistlehold. But essentially, that road just below that is where the Fern Tavern is. I cannot for the life of me remember where the Witch and Familiar is. I think it's by the West Gate, right?
Yeah, it's somewhere in the kind of...
It's by the West Gate, yeah.
It's number 10 on this.
Number 10, there we go, okay. So as you can see, it's not too far a walk over there. Do we want to just head over there now? By that I mean, please, shall we head over there now?
I think Steele will make a point of finishing his pint.
That's absolutely fine. That's understandable. So if we are happy to do that, do we consider ourselves equipped and the rest of that? Yeah.
Sure. Steele has not yet left the phase where he's wearing his heavy plate absolutely everywhere.
Sure. Are you carrying it with you?
Yes, I'm wearing it.
Oh, I see. Sorry, I misheard you. I thought you said you're not at the stage where you are wearing it. You still are because you're so proud of it. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and despite what false experts of the internet might tell you, plate armor is actually quite comfortable to wear everywhere. So, you stand up and make your way out of the Witch and Familiar, as I described in the preamble section. Thistlehold feels kind of oddly quiet and stilted at the moment. Maybe just because summer has ended and now autumn is here. The rain has eased off slightly, but it's still kind of drizzling down overhead. The sky is, just various different shades of grey. And you make your way towards the Fern Tavern on the promenade with a minimum of fuss. No one is going to mess with the four of you. You're quite visibly heavily armed. And make a somewhat intimidating group now walking through the streets, maybe with a bit of extra confidence and swagger to your step as well. The Fern Tavern lays at the centre of the block, north of Inadar's Road, west of the promenade. It is located in the bottom floor of a 3-story building and is just about big enough to house 6 round tables with 4 chairs each. The interior decoration is plain. The only items standing out are the bronze candlesticks on the tables, shaped like meandering snakes with candles in their maws. As you arrive, the door is ajar. Through the crack, you can see a lone figure sitting by a table at the back of the tavern, illuminated by a flickering candle flame. It is a woman in her 30s, dressed in a simple bone-white wool tunic and a dark brown cloak. She seems to be spending the wait picking her fingernails with a sturdy knife.
So is this place trouble because it's in Trouble District?
It's in quite a troubled district, but it's a very basic place. Occasionally you'll find trouble here, but you spent a lot of time as a city guard. The Fern Tavern is a baseline level of dangerous in Thistlehold. Nothing to write home about. Yeah.
Functional. I'll just hum and ha my way in and maybe say, well, it's certainly no worse than the Witch and Familiar.
Well, I think we'll make our way inside and see how this character reacts when we walk in.
Sure. John, can you bring up the picture of the character, please? There she is. As you enter, she kind of sees the group of you come in and she stands up and with a wordless gesture sort of asks you to come closer. She smiles as you approach, but can anyone or everyone who might be trying to scope her out a bit, it's up to you whether you are or not. If you are, go ahead and make a vigilant roll, please, while I readjust my chair.
I made it.
Needed 13, rolled 13.
'Tis not my strong suit. I did not make it.
I failed.
Okay. Well, anyone who succeeded notices that she is smiling, but you basically, you feel that this smile is hiding the fact that she seems to be quite nervous. There are drops of sweat gleaming on her forehead, despite the tavern being just as chilly as the street outside. Yes. She kind of gestures for you to sit around her table.
I'll sit down.
Yep.
Yeah.
We are at a disadvantage, as it seems. You know us, but I don't believe I've met you at all before.
No, I don't. I don't think you have. I'm sorry. You're probably wondering why I've contacted you. At least I hope you are.
Absolutely. Our reputation does not yet precede us.
You may be surprised on that. The reason I contacted you is that credible sources, very credible sources, have assured me that you are skilled and that you hold, and she kind of looks around at this, no love for the dark aspects of Davokar.
Is there anyone who does?
More than you'd like to think.
Is she? Are her hands covered?
No, her hands are not covered.
Is she wearing a ring? Perhaps maybe an iron one.
No, not a visible one, certainly.
Perfect.
Well,
Would I? Is that assertion correct?
yes, more or less.
Well, what I require assistance with is highly dangerous and related to the darkness of Davokar.
Do explain.
I mean, before I can give you some details, but we should talk before I delve into real detail. And of course, we need to talk about remuneration. A stranger just contacting you does not expect you to work for free. After all, the situation I am discussing with you is dire and it requires haste. I would estimate there is less than 5 days to sort out this mess.
And
Failure would. No, go ahead.
And I assume this mess is resident within the forest at present.
No, not necessarily.
Okay. Well,
Failure, however, would, and she kind of looks around herself again and leans in a bit. Failure would result in hundreds of deaths in and around Thistlehold and perhaps the collapse of the entire settlement. So far, I believe myself to be the only individual in town who knows about this threat, and it must remain that way because of the particular nature of the crisis, with perhaps the exception of you yourselves if we should reach an accommodation.
safety of this town is quite dear to my heart. What's the mark?
Well, before I do that, before I say any further, I feel we need to discuss the terms of this, and also for me to understand where you stand in various matters. I believe Stio, yes, is your name.
Again, you have my name and I have yet to hear yours. It does not put me at ease if you want us to work for you.
I understand this. Name your price. What would you want in return for carrying out this task?
A property.
Very well. A decent place to live within the walls?
Yes, wholly owned, freehold.
All right. She turns to Askarai and says, "And yourself?" I'm assuming Askarai is wearing kind of his mask still at this point.
Yeah. It worries me that you would give away a property so easily. Perhaps this task is something you don't expect us to come back from.
I assure you, I fully believe that you can survive this. And as I say, my associates possess significant resources.
Well, I think for me, somewhere outside the walls, but further from the forest.
Still a safe place. That should be possible to arrange.
Okay.
Father, how about you?
I too want a property. Somewhere to devote myself to my faith and to help others explore it as well. A parish of sorts. A retreat for worship and for study.
We almost certainly should be able to cover that. And you, Sir Knight?
It seems that the going rate is a property.
As you start speaking, a very loud lone bell is heard chiming. The woman kind of raises her head and looks around and definitely gains a little bit of a look of panic on her face. Askarai, Anton, and Alindra, can you make a cunning roll, please? Stio does not need to make it because he knows what the bell at the north gate sounds like.
I didn't make it.
I failed.
That's a fail from Mike as well.
I think even Chris knows what this means.
Yeah. So the bell at the north gate is sounding, Chris. That means something is coming from Davakar. Because the north gate does not have a road outside it. It just faces out 200 paces away onto the edge of Davakar.
Oh, trouble or treasure. Here it comes.
This bell is also an alarm bell. The last time it tolled was 4 years ago.
Troublesome.
And 4 years ago, a lot of blood was shed. Shouting voices are starting to be heard from outside. You can see people moving along the street towards the promenade. The woman at the table goes pale and audibly to all of you softly says to herself, "The elves."
Oh, elves, is it? Blood's going to be spilled this night. My dear, unless you want to give us some more specific information now, we are probably needed to defend the town.
She shakes her head and says, "I would do best to avoid places swarming with guards and soldiers. I will speak nothing more of the task until the situation becomes clearer. I promise to wait for you here."
We will return.
She nods and is definitely kind of like tucking herself away in the corner of the room, kind of deeper into the shadows. And you can see her kind of like that knife that she was picking her nails with before. She kind of like has it held low next to her stomach under the table as if expecting a sudden attack of some kind.
Well, last time this happened, there was blood on the streets for days. And if Our Lady is correct and these are elves coming, we know what happened the last time there were elves in the town as well. Do we go to the wall or do we stay?
There is definitely a general flow of people kind of along the street who seem to be going to the north gate. If we bring up the map again, we can see you are very, very close to the north gate from where you are now. It's just kind of past Toad Square. There we go. So as I say, you're near that like 17 at the north center, and as you see, Toad Square, that's 42. That's very close to you, and the north gate is there at 35. So you're very close to where the gate is.
I say we go to the Frog and see what happens. Maybe if we're lucky, the sounds of Symbaroum will burn down.
Put some elves in it.
Oh, double your pleasure.
I agree. We should head there. It's the only place we're going to get any idea what's going on.
Sure. So, are we saying anything else to the woman before we leave, or just kind of like, I mean, she's, I guess, said her farewells to you? Are we just confident getting up and joining the throng of people as they move towards the north gate?
I think I'll kind of pause and go, you're going to be okay, yeah? You look like you're expecting to be targeted.
I will be fine. But by all means, see to the safety of the town, and I will remain here and wait for you. Please do return to me.
Sure.
So, you go out into the street onto Haloban's Ring and follow it round, and there are a lot of people moving there now, moving towards Toad Square now. You can see quite a lot of kind of city guard and town watch among them, kind of with a look of concern on their face. And then you emerge into Toad Square itself, and we can go ahead and have the image of Toad Square back up, please. It's really thronged with people now, and I mean, really starting to get packed, especially near the gate where people are kind of trying to get up on the battlement of the palisade, or kind of climbing onto the roofs of buildings to kind of peer over and see what they can see on the forest's edge. By the northern gatehouse stands Captain Marvello, a captain of the guard who you've interacted with a couple of times now, specifically in the Mark of the Beast when you were hunting the Flayer. He's a tall, very soldierly looking man with kind of quite tightly cropped, curled dark hair and a very well trimmed, slightly pointed goatee. And he's a guy who polishes his armor very thoroughly, and it always looks very appointed and stuff. Steo, you've worked with him a fair bit. He has a lot. He earns a lot of respect from the general membership of the town guard. He is stood by the northern gatehouse, ordering a growing number of town guards to push people away from the closed gates. The only people who seem to be being let through are the few Queen's Rangers who currently have Thistlehold as their base of operations. The bystanders reluctantly back away, but many among them are not content, and they are the people kind of flowing up to the battlement palisade, the palisade battlement, I should say, or the roofs of the buildings.
How does he look? Does he look harangued and stressed?
Yes, he looks well. He never particularly looks stressed. He's very calm and capable, but he is definitely occupied with trying to direct the flow of people away from the gate itself. And at the same time, he keeps kind of like doubling back. And there's like a lower area of the wall here has been replaced with sort of stone, and there are some calling them windows is an elaboration, but there are some arrow murder holes directly through them, and he's kind of checking and looking at the forest edge through that, and then kind of walking back and trying to keep control with the guardsmen of the flow of people towards the gate.
Gentlemen, it looks like we may have a calling helping out Captain Marvello, if I assume everyone is equipped to fight.
Yeah, Antom's already hefted his new flail into both hands.
I should make it like they're not fighting people at the gates.
Yeah, I get.
Yeah.
Just in general, is anyone wearing their dress shirt, I suppose, is what I'm getting at.
I mean, yeah, like I say, the north gate seems to be fairly well barricaded now with a number of guardsmen around it. So the only kind of everyone is flowing up to those battlements and the tops of the houses to try and get a look outside.
Steo, why don't you ask the captain if we can be of assistance? I don't know how they feel about, your town guard, but the rest of
Marvello,
us.
former town guard, and Marvello is always good for accepting assistance in times of crisis. Let's go and see what we can do. So,
Okay, you definitely have to fight the flow of people to try and get through the masses. Like, even though they're being pushed away from the town gates, like there's quite a lot of them there. Does anyone have 13 or more in strong?
Yes.
Okay, then you can all fall in behind Alindra.
we both have actually, but I'll
well, both of you can do it then. So if you make your way through, why don't you two describe to me exactly how you make your way with strength through a crowd like this? You know, what kind of methodology are we talking about?
I'm actually going to be using kind of guard's voice and being intimidating.
Yeah, I don't think Alindra would say anything. I think she's quite kind of tall and sort of imposingly built anyway. I think, and armored. So I think she would just kind of walk forward, and if anybody seemed like they were going to get in her way, just kind of shoot them a look.
Absolutely. So as you get closer to where the guard are pushing people back, you can see quite a lot of other people are there going, "Oh, we'll help you. Just let us through. Let us through." Kind of other sellswords and sort of ne'er-do-wells who are interested in getting, presumably involved with the prospect of looting any corpses if this if violence breaks out. They are all being rebuffed. Marvello, you even hear Marvello. He's not close enough to kind of see you among the mass, but he kind of walks back over to, and you can hear his voice carrying over the crowd. "Sergeant, don't let any of them through. We need to hold until we know what's going on."
It seems our services are not required.
Well, let me ask. Can't help. Marvello, do you want some competent assistance?
Can you give me a persuasive roll, please? Probably with like a -3 for how much your voice can even carry through the crowd.
I'm rolling on 4 here, and I was going to spend XP if it was a 7, but I'm not on 4. Oh, I rolled a 12.
No, your voice can't really be heard over the crowd, and you can't quite get up to where the guards are. Like, even with your strength, most people seem to be flowing towards the battlements from where you are now, along the palisade, and you can see that there is in fact like a curving wooden staircase just to the left of where you are, just to the left of the gate. And you think between you and Elindra, if at the very least, while you don't seem to be able to get Captain Marvel's attention, if you did want to get a look over the palisade between the two of you, you could definitely clear a path up there for the group.
I'm not... Okay, you are correct. It seems that our assistance is not required.
I'm going up the stairs.
Okay.
May I suggest we don't overburden the palisade any more than it is burdened already? If we're not going to be useful, there's no point in us being spectators. Spectators are worse than useful.
It's perfectly sturdy, Chris. I don't have a palisade health tracker here. It's fine.
The famously rickety palisade facing towards the forest of Tavok.
I think my suggestion stands because Steele's dealt with crowds before, and he does not want to contribute rather than.
Okay.
I would
it sounds like Alindra.
I'll say
Alindra is going up.
Yes.
Is anyone else going up?
If only we had a small, light goblin companion that we could send.
Well, Earthons ain't here right now, so.
Yeah, I'll go up as well.
Yeah, sure. Ascarai?
Yeah, definitely.
I just pictured it like Steel at the back going, "Well, maybe we shouldn't." And the three of you are just like pushing on ahead. Steel, your companions seem fairly determined to go up to the palisade. Are you going to remain where you are in the kind of crush of people, or are you actually going to follow them, being as they're completely ignoring your recommendation and behaving as a crowd does do?
Huffing like a goddamn steam train, I follow along.
seems reasonable. So behind Alindra, there's no problem getting up. The stairway is crammed, but Alindra just kind of like shoulders some people aside, not in a horribly violent way, I would imagine. And Steo as well, you can push around some people. More than anything, it's people just seeing you coming, people fully armored and armed. And they kind of back out of the way, and you find your way along a fairly crowded segment of the battlement of the palisade. The great sharpened trunks reach up to probably around your head height even, but there's valleys between them that you can peer out and look around. And you're all around you are ne'er-do-wells, craftsmen, all kinds of people just kind of peeking over, trying to see what doom is coming to Thistlehold from the north. And it's only seconds after you find your spot that loud creaking and crashing is heard from the forest edge around 200 paces away. A silence settles among the assembled folk quickly, and then turns into a collective inhalation when the cause of the alarm emerges. Two colossi, at least the height of 3 men, like enormous crosses between oxen and apes, but with bodies made of plant fibers rather than flesh and muscles. Standing on their backs are 2 barbarian witches dressed in multicolored felt dresses and with wooden masks covering their faces. The colossal mounts come to a halt around 50 paces from the palisade. Is there any immediate reaction from you guys, or any kind of conversation you want to have about this?
I think Anton will... Go ahead.
You don't raid Thistlehold with 2 witches. This is diplomacy or a threat.
Yeah, I think Anton's looking over towards Captain Marvolo now to see what he's doing at this moment in time and seeing if he's going to communicate with them.
Well, let's ask Askarai and Alindra. What are you guys having any particular reaction to this? I would bet that Askarai probably has seen witches riding colossi before, and Alindra probably has not.
Yes, yeah. So I was going to turn to the others and just say, like, is this sort of thing normal? Like,
well, not here.
It's Davokar. There is nothing neither normal nor abnormal about that place. It is chaos and death.
But we're not in Davokar, not here.
That's Davokar there, 50 paces.
So, down in the square, Mike, you asked what Anton was looking, what Captain Marvello is doing down there. The captain has watched the whole thing through that the gap in the stone, and seems to have reached the conclusion that this is not an assault in a similar manner to Steo. He seems to be pulling together a group of city guard, and as you watch, he's kind of like counting heads, tells them to open the gates, and then turns around and kind of cries out like a loud, wordless yell that silences a lot of the people around him. And he roars at the top of his lungs, which are very impressive. I have an escort, but I'm going to need others. Is there a scholar here who knows the clan tongues? Anyone from the Ordo Magica, the Sun Church, the Queen's Legate, anyone? Anton, you fit 2 of those boxes. You're also on mute.
I know, but I'm hoping that someone else who is more qualified will put their hands up. But yeah, I will look around, and if no one does tick,
most of the crowd seems to be staying pretty damn silent about this. You can see people from the barbarian clans in the crowd, and they are not putting their hands up.
Yeah, with a heavy sigh, Anton will yell out, I know a bit.
Marvello kind of turns around and peers up at you along the palisade.
Push my way down towards him.
And says, Father Anton, thank you. Bring the sergeant as well. He points at Steo.
Sergeant, as if they're paying these sergeants money. Good man, Tom.
Askarai and Alindra, are you going to try and get in on this?
Yeah. Yes.
Follow the only people I know versus standing uselessly on the battlements. Yes, I'm coming down.
Sure, absolutely. If you all kind of like make your way down, you can see that like a junior novice of the Ordo Magica is like looking around like a startled rabbit, having been like herded into the area by the Queen's Guard. There doesn't seem to be anyone as a representative of the Queen's Legate here, but you wouldn't imagine that the legation is all the way on the other side of town, and like a random diplomat is unlikely to be roaming in Toad Square at this time of day. Yeah, as you approach, kind of Marvello orders the city guard to make a gap for you to come and bundle in right by the north gate. And he looks over and he says, I don't want to take anyone who isn't necessary. We don't need your companions. We're not looking to start a fight. People can try and persuade him.
Captain Marvello, you know these lads, they're not going to cause trouble unless I tell them to.
Is Anton going to say? I'm just because Anton has a higher persuasive.
I'll just indicate that they aren't going to be a problem. Just hold my hands up and just say,
sure,
they can be here. They are no trouble.
Sure. Why don't we have a test? Why don't you do a persuasive test, but with a +5, because you are precisely providing what he needs. So I think he's willing to do it to keep you happy, more or less.
I just make it. I roll a 13 and I needed 15.
He looks like he's going to kind of cut you off and then shrugs and says, all right, but their behavior is on your two heads.
Yes, sir.
It's fair.
He turns around and orders the gates to be opened, and he starts walking forward to the north. The witches remain still, waiting on the backs of their colossi. I take it you're going to walk behind him. The other town guards kind of waited a second for him to walk ahead, and then you saw a couple of them like sharing looks with each other, and then they start forward, kind of like trying to hold themselves, a bit braced. The novice from the Ordo Magica is sort of like bundled in between a few of the guards, kind of like wringing his hands slightly as he walks north.
Yep, it looks like Anton is making a few terrified steps forward towards these enormous beasts.
Absolutely.
I'll kind of fall in beside Anton and do that kind of bodyguardy type thing.
Sure. Absolutely. And the Askar and Alindra, much the same, just kind of following behind.
Yeah, I think following behind. I might say, been a while since I've seen a colossi, especially this far south.
Is that what they're called?
So the procession stops a few paces away from the huge creatures. You can't help but notice, kind of, even though they're huge, they're mass in front of you, they don't seem to be breathing. They just stand still, kind of swaying ever so slightly with the creaking of a ginormous tree. And you know what? Stephen was asking in private chat what they look like. They were questioning for it. The reason why I didn't throw a picture is because we literally have a picture of what's happening right now. So, John, there we go. That is literally the scene. Captain Marvello there in front, looking up at the two colossi with the witches mounting them, with Thistlehold in the background. This is part of the excitement of Throne of Thorns. There's a lot more illustrations of precise scenes in the story, which is really cool. As you come up to them there, Marvello turns to Anton and says, I'm willing to put some faith in your phrasing here, Father. Please welcome them to the Ambrian realm.
Well, I will do my hardest for sure. Try my hardest for sure. And under his breath, Anton will offer a quick prayer to Preos for everything to go smoothly in this encounter. This strange and unusual encounter. Do I think I have to roll for translation, or is that only for
not with Lawmaster. It's only if it's like a challenging translation or something like that. But with Lawmaster, you can just speak various barbarian tongues. Of course, you probably don't know which clan they are. but there's almost like a baseline barbarian tongue as well that's like used ceremonially and used a lot in Karvosti, their capital, or sort of. You probably understand it as a capital. That's not really what it is, but that's probably your perception of it. And that's something that people default to quite often if they don't know what tribe someone is from.
Sure.
I made all that up, but I think it sounds about right. So.
Would I, from looking at them, be able to have any idea what tribe they might be from, having spent some time amongst some barbarian tribes?
You know what? Give me a cunning roll at a -3.
Okay. I rolled a 9, which I think just doesn't make it. Yeah, I needed an.
Sure. Yeah, you're unfamiliar.
Okay.
So I will just say in this common tongue, Captain Marvello of the Thistlehold Town Guard welcomes you to this land.
One of the witches kind of leans slightly forward and with a voice from behind his wooden mask says, "And we send our greetings in return. I am Gadramon. I am sent by Yelata, the Huldra of Karvosti. You are aware, Anton, and some of the other, probably Askarai is more likely to. The Huldra of Karvosti is sort of analogous to the High Priestess of all the barbarian clans. I'm assuming you're translating this back to Marvello.
Yeah, do you want me to just repeat that?
No. Well, I kind of do, because I want to know how you're phrasing things, because that sort of swings my response. Are you? Well, just tell me if you're changing anything in any way.
No, absolutely not. This is getting repeated verbatim.
Sure.
Well, at least so far it is.
As you turn back, you can see Marvello kind of nodding slightly, and as he looks at you, he says, "I can understand some of it. I just can't speak it. Can you ask why they've come?"
I'll turn to the witch who spoke and ask. Captain Marvello is inquiring as to why you have visited us here.
Gadramon sort of leans down and quite intently towards you with quite a steely voice from behind the mask says, "Has the well spoken?"
Sorry, I will repeat that exactly to Marvello and I guess give a shrug of my shoulders.
Marvello kind of wrinkles his brow and kind of looks at everyone else just to see if there's any comprehension from anyone.
That's the frog, isn't it?
Probably. Well, there is a well in Thistlehold. It's not in Toad Square.
Oh, I thought that was the one it was. Okay, I am incorrect.
No, it's in the Antiquities Plaza.
I am incorrect in character.
Like an old bronze well. Everyone just kind of, unless anyone from your party is going to go, "Yes, I have a theory," then everyone looks quite blankly around. Marvello turns to you, quite unsure what to say, and Gadramon, the witch, speaks before a response can be given and sternly says, "No answer is answer enough. We wish for passage into the town."
I'll repeat that to Marvello and see what he says.
Marvello just looks baffled at this entire thing and says, "I mean, why?"
Captain Marvello wants to know why you want to enter Thistlehold.
"We are here to help. The Huldra fears that a very potent source of corruption dwells at the heart of Thistlehold. Time is short. The well speaks, it does not corrupt."
Okay. I'll relay that to Marvello and everyone else. Captain, what do you want me to say?
"Well, this cannot be allowed without the express permission of Mayor Nightpitch."
Well, let's send for him.
I will go to him myself. Can you ask if they can wait?
How long should I tell them to wait for? An hour? 2 hours?
As long as it takes for me to return. You can tell them I will guarantee that I myself will return to give them Mayor Nightpitch's word.
Okay, I turn to the witch and say, Captain Marvello needs to speak to the mayor of this town, and he has asked politely that you may wait for him to conduct that meeting. He will do his utmost to return as quickly as possible.
Gadramon kind of nods and says, time is short. Myself and my companion Ephanea will return to the forest edge and wait. I'm assuming that name sends a little chill through you. Ephanea is a very common name among barbarian clans.
Okay.
This is the third one you've met.
It is the third one we've met.
I will
whisper like, Ephanea the Elder?
I will take a closer look at the second witch, I think, at this moment in time.
You're almost certain it's not...
sure. But
not El's character's aunt, who you also met, who was called Ephanea.
Yeah.
It's just the inconvenience of... I could have renamed her, but I thought it's also an interesting character moment. When I opened the book and was like, another Ephanea.
Okay. Well, I'll turn to the captain and tell him all of that, and sort of indicate that they said that time is urgent, so he should make a move immediately to go and see Mayor Nightpitch.
Marvello nods and says, I'm on my way right now. Come, close the gate behind us. He gives a final nod to the two witches, who kind of, the colossi kind of rear up slightly on their rear legs as they turn, and with a huge thump come to the ground again and start walking slowly, like, animated redwoods towards the edge of the forest. Marvello is kind of half sort of speed walking towards the north gate now.
So
everyone following him?
Yeah, I think we're going to try and nudge Anton to kind of keep pace.
Yeah, we're definitely. I think we're probably making a move to following him to see Mayor Nightpitch as well.
Sure, he walks into the gates. They're kind of closed behind you all. And he's kind of like parting the guards ahead of him already, shouting for people to clear the way, and kind of like dashing through on his way clearly to Nightholm, which is literally on the south wall of the city. So it's going to take him a short amount of time to get there for sure. He definitely seems to not be considering you as people to bring with him. In fact, he doesn't seem to be intentionally going with anyone. Are you going to try to move your way through the crowd to kind of follow him in some way?
Well, I think that it might be a good time to sort of interrupt him and ask about the well, and whether we need to investigate that ourselves, if just in case Mayor Nightpitch does grant permission for those witches to come into the town.
Can you give me a quick roll to see if you actually catch up with him enough at all to even ask him the question?
My quick is not good. 7. I rolled 13.
Okay. No, he's often gone. By the time you get through the gates and they close behind you, kind of the town guard is still holding people back from the gates, but he's been let through, but you're still kind of behind them. They will let you through, but by the time you go through and push through the people are parting for Marvello. They probably won't part for you. So he's often gone towards Nightholm, presumably.
Well, we better go and tell the young lady about the... She mentioned elves. These were not elves. This was a parlay.
Do we have time to do that?
We have until...
I might be needed to converse with these witches again.
Yeah,
the Fern is a lot closer than Nightholm. We should be able to get there and back in time.
That's true.
Yeah, very much so. Night Home is literally as far as you can go in Thistlehold, and back in the Fern is round the corner, essentially. So,
should we send a runner to the well just in case?
Is it for us to investigate the well right now?
I think if danger is imminent and when the advice is cryptic and comes from witches, it's a good idea to fill your pocketbook with as much evidence and knowledge as possible.
Would you like me to go and find out if the well is talking?
Oh, you put it so sincerely. Look, I'm not ordering anyone around. I would appreciate if someone went and got took a listen to whatever's coming out of that copper thing.
Okay, I'll go.
Okay, so it sounds like you're both heading in the same. You're all heading in the same direction anyway. If three of you are going to the Fern and Alindra is going kind of further down to Antiques Plaza, can you bring up the map of Thistlehold, please, John? So just so we know the directions in which we are heading, right? Because that seems to make sense. So we're in Toad Square now, which is God. I wish I could. Direct
42.
Maybe
42.
Maybe I should share these in future, or the map at least in future. Yes, 42 is Toad Square. The Fern is around number 17. Oh, lovely. Thank you, John. The Fern is around 17 there. Wonderful. And Antiques Plaza is 40, which is like just a little south of the center of the. There we go. So as you can see, you're all heading south immediately. And I don't want to go into too much detail about how you're moving around or, how you're splitting up, because as all four of you reach the southern part of Toad Square, there is a sound incredibly hard to describe, but I'm going to try and do it anyway. Like a bell resonating so hard it breaks itself, a great clangor that makes the ground shake and the entire world resound around you. Literally, your eyesight kind of vibrates, and everyone in Toad Square and presumably Thistlehold sort of shakes on their feet. Some of them around you can see collapsing to the ground from the just the vibration and pain of it all. Can everyone please give me a test against strong? No modifiers.
$20.
Classic Anton.
Oh, welcome back, Anton.
Can I flail sounds? Does that work?
Yeah.
I did fine. I needed 15, and I got 2.
Cool. Ascarai, how do you do?
I need a 7. I got a 7.
Okay. In that case, Anton, can you roll a d4 for me, please?
You are possessed by D4 demons.
You are on mute, friend.
I rolled a 1.
Okay, that's good. In that case, you take 1 toughness.
Okay.
Anton seems to be the worst off of the group of you. He kind of staggers forwards and clutches at his face and comes away kind of hands mildly soaked with blood. You can see blood kind of gushing out of his nose it's just a bad nosebleed, but it's definitely unpleasant. Anton, you have like this pain in your sinuses there, where the sound has done something unpleasant to you. But there are people around much worse, kind of clasping their ears. There are some people on the floor kind of coughing up blood and just kind of all like just lying still in place. Clearly, the others have been more grotesquely affected with this than you four have.
Does anyone speak well?
Are you all right, priest?
My word. What on earth was that?
No, sounds like a warning. Let's try and find out what's going on.
People are starting to kind of get to their feet around you, or helping others to their feet, and everyone is just kind of blinking and looking around, shocked by this. And that is when the next sound happens. First, there is a mighty crack, as if the ground was twisting in pain, and shortly thereafter, a cacophony of bangs, rumbles and panicked screams. Somewhere very close to the south west of you, a huge dust cloud erupts into the sky, and you can hear you can hear the sound of distant screaming and crying, and a sort of gritty stone-like rumble that just seems to be carrying on and on and on. The reaction of the people in the square is very varied. Some people are running as fast as they can away from what seems to be the source of this to the southwest. Others are moving towards it, and probably most are just standing stock still, looking around in fear.
Is it in a direction that could be the fern?
If you wanted to put money on it, Ascarai, you think you would get very, very good odds indeed that it was directly from the area of the fern.
Let's go.
We need to go now.
Was that night home or?
Definitely not far enough to be night home.
I think it's the fern.
Directly to your southwest.
Oh, Prius's teats. Come on, let's go. Expect trouble.
So as you start running, it's not that far towards the street where the fern is. You meet hundreds of people running in the opposite direction, all of them terrified. Many are crying, most are covered in dust. Some are limping or applying pressure to open wounds, and some are bleeding from their nose and eyes. You're kind of making your way through these streets now, and as this dust cloud starts to slowly come down, like there's still quite a bit of visibility, but you're sort of like wiping grit and dirt away from your face as you're making your way forwards. Are you just kind of making your way through these crowds? Are you doing anything in particular or preparing in any way?
Yeah, I think I'll be readying my spear.
Drawing their weapons and the like.
Yeah, I think the sword's out at this point.
Sure.
Primarily just to try to add to the kind of intimidation factor to try to get through more quickly.
Yeah, right. Because as you're going, you're having to like almost barge through people because they're all just coming in the opposite direction.
I find that's a lot easier with a bastard sword.
It's probably, yeah. So as you're making your way forward, you're still a couple of blocks from the fern, but the destruction is monumental. Lots of the buildings are like sloughing off to one side or have cracked open with the shaking of the ground. Deeper into the dust, you can notice fights between survivors, desperate people climbing over each other to get away. Having said that, can everyone give me a vigilant test?
I miss my vigilant goblin.
I made it. I got a 9 out of 15.
Ascarai, the group of you making your way forward and kind of seeing these conflicts starting, you just catch out of the corner of your eye you're fairly convinced that some of these struggles are with individuals who do not look normal or like normal residents of Thistlehold. You'd have to make your way a bit closer. You're quite close to the air is full of dust, but you seem to be quite close to maybe like an area where 4 people seem to be struggling with each other. And from what you can glimpse through this dust cloud, it really does not look like 2 of them are normal in some way. The way they move is odd. Your changeling eyes pick this out. What are you going to do? Are you going to mention it to the others?
I'll say some of these people are not right. Look at those 4. And I'll probably head slightly towards them to try and get a better look at what is wrong with some of these people.
Absolutely. So you the other 3 of you following after Ascarai?
Yeah, I'm going to try and get in front of him, or at least beside him.
Sure. So from a distance, as you're approaching, the 4 of you see what look like 2 youngsters, teenagers who are desperately trying to fight back against some figures struggling with them in the dust-filled murk. One of them is kind of has two like what look like very muscular, jagged arms wrapped around them, and is dragged off into a side alleyway screaming. The other is tackled to the ground as you desperately try and approach, and the figure leaps on top of them and appears to be punching them over and over again in their chest. It's only when you get close enough and kind of a gust of wind opens the dust around them that you see that the figure on top of the youngster is, perhaps they were once human, but they no longer appear to be so. It is a raging creature, corrupted and twisted. It's wearing an iron slave collar and is almost completely physically deformed. It has its forearms twisted and corrupted into what seem to be kind of bone blades, which it is thrusting repeatedly into the chest of the very dead young teenager in front of you. Its head has kind of like horn-like outgrowths, and all over its body are the damning blight marks of a beastly abomination, kind of patches of fur, predatory jaws, and what seem to be snake-like eyes. Yep.
I'm going to immediately shoot this thing.
That sounds reasonable. I would put us into initiative, but I want to see if you just kill this thing outright, because you're pretty handy with that bow. So I just want to see what happens before we do it. So why don't you give me your our first combat roll of the campaign,
Let's
gentlemen.
go, gamers!
Can you give me your accurate? It is accurate. You roll for.
I roll vigilant.
You roll vigilant. Yes.
Yeah. Sixth sense is the ability I have. Okay, I need a 50. Well, is there any modifier?
Oh yeah, sorry. There's that mechanic. The modifier is +5. So
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
I did hit.
so yeah, it's always worth mentioning, Stephen. Even if the modifier of a roll takes you to 20, it's always worth rolling, because if you roll a natural 20, the enemy gains an advantage. So it's always worth rolling. Or indeed you may get a 1 and get a critical. You hit. So why don't you give me a damage roll, please?
Okay, my damage is a D10 +1 now.
Ooh.
I rolled a 5, so 6 damage.
Okay. So your arrow thumps directly kind of between its shoulder blades, and it tumbles forward with sort of a screech that sounds equally human and equally animalistic, almost like not an animalistic human scream, but like a human and an animal just screamed at the same time, like a braying bellow backed up with a piercing human scream. And it kind of like wheels round and fixes those yellow tinged snake eyes on you. But luckily for you, you have just gone over its pain threshold. You'd get another attack anyway, right? But do you want to knock it down, or do you want to get a free attack before your third attack?
I think I'll take a free attack before my third attack.
Sure. Why don't you roll? Give me another roll then.
Okay, so anything but a 20. I got a 9. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
And my D10 damage, I rolled an 8, so 9 damage.
Yeah. So the thing wheels around and screeches at you and kind of just goes to start forward, and another of Askarai's arrows pierces through its throat, and it gives a wretched coughing sound and tumbles to the ground, dead.
The other kid.
I assume you're moving forwards towards there?
Yeah, I'm gonna barrel towards the alleyway.
Same.
Sure. The four of you move forward, and kind of as you come flush with the alleyway, you look down and can see absolutely no sign of where the teenager has been dragged off to. But you do hear someone crying for help just further ahead in the street, and through the like blowing dust, you can see what looks like an Ambrian woman wielding nothing but a broomstick, standing legs apart over what seems likely to be her mother. The old one has fallen to the ground. A man is trying to get her up, but is effectively hindered by 4 terrified children clinging to his arms and legs. The woman with the broomstick seems intent on fighting for the life of herself, her family, and her town. But 2 of these warped monstrosities are approaching with low growls and seem about to pounce on her and her family.
Change direction, I suppose, with a swear.
Sure. Yeah. What you know what I'd say with this, the other one was fully preoccupied, but these ones are kind of aware, and I wouldn't say we're kind of actively ambushing them. So why don't we turn this into an actual goddamn combat? John, for your initiative purposes, obviously there's the 4 of here, and there are just put them on as clan beasts, and there are 2 of them, but obviously that doesn't matter because they take the same spot on the initiative. There we go. Ascarai, you're first up. How about you wipe them out?
I'll do my best.
Sure.
Okay.
We're doing the thing right where you have like a half chance to recover arrows, right? I think that was our like homebrew rule, right? Half chance to pluck arrows out of corpses at the full end of a fight, not like.
Yeah, I haven't taken any back even for the previous one because I figure we're quite busy.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, I will take a shot at whichever one seems nearest to this woman with her broom.
Sure.
So I'm assuming modifier is the same.
Yep, they're the same creatures.
Okay, I got an 11, which hits, and my damage, I rolled a 3, so 4 damage.
Okay, that doesn't take them over a pain threshold. I'm assuming you're taking your second shot on the same one.
I will do. Use my rapid
If anyone
fire.
out there is wondering why, rapid fire is why Ascarai gets 2 shots around. It's Symbaroum's one of these games where like you roll your characters and you're like, oh, you feel a bit clunky and underpowered, and then you get like one ability, and all of a sudden, like some abilities are just absolute game changers. Yeah,
it made a very big difference. But yeah, I hit on a 16, and on my D10 I rolled a 7 + 1, so 8.
Yeah. So you see the one of the clan beast that's like literally about to pounce on the woman wielding the broomstick. Just one arrow slams into its arm, the other slams into the side of its head, and it kind of tumbles over onto the ground in a mass of like thrashing bone blade like appendages. And then go still on the ground. Elindra, it is your turn.
Okay, so let's see how this combat stuff goes. So, like, what's closest to me?
I mean, the closest thing to there is only one clan beast left, and it is
that one.
Yeah, that one is the one closest to you. You can definitely charge it and hit it in this round.
Fantastic, yeah. I was doing some last minute, just making sure that I understood what was on the character sheet.
Sure.
So, what are we rolling against to attack?
So if you're charging it and trying to cleave into it with your bastard sword, all you need to do is I don't think you have an ability that changes the stat you roll to hit with, right?
I roll strong instead of accurate.
You have Iron Fist, strong instead of accurate. So what you're doing is a test against strong. It's at a +5 to your roll because its defense is literally the worst defense one can have. So essentially, you are because your strong is 15, right?
Yep.
You're going to hit it, but roll to see if you get a crit or a fumble with it.
Sure. I get a 19.
Oh, nearly a fumble, but not quite. So you dash towards it and you strike true. Could you give me a damage roll, please?
Yeah, that's the bit that I was working out. So normally a heavy weapon's D10, but I've got two-handed force, so it's going to be a D12, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okie dokie. 2.
Okay, so not great, but you still struck. So you dash towards the thing, and at the last moment, it turns its attention away from the woman with the broomstick, which is a result. And you swipe towards it, and you just take the tip off one of those bone blades as it raises to defend itself, and a kind of orangey, yellow, pus-like blood pumps out and drips onto the ground below. Now that you're close, you are. Yeah, you are fairly sure that this used to be a human being. Like, there's too much humanity or fallen humanity to the face of it to deny that fact. And you have heard tell of monstrosities from the forest, but this may be the first time you've actually encountered one.
It almost certainly is. At the same time, I've also had some Templar training, right? So I think that's going to sort of
probably holding yourself together better than an average soldier or knight might in being confronted with this stuff.
I may not have been told so, but I've been trained for doing exactly this.
Yeah. Also, I would note, without kind of, I don't want to reveal things for you. You have an ability on your sheet that is a free action, so you can always do it, regardless of what other actions you are taking.
Let's do it because it's a cool thing to do.
It is a cool thing to do, isn't it? And this doesn't reveal anything to your companions unless you talk about it.
Okay.
So there is that. So Elindra is going to use Witch Sight. As a free action, you can make a roll, which is vigilant, modified by the foe's discreet. And it's quite good, actually. So basically, roll your vigilant at a -3. And you are aware that when I say these things, like the minus or the plus gets added to your stat, not your die roll.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
So my vigilance 10, -3 is 7. I need to get a 7 or less to succeed, right?
Correct. Absolutely spot on. And when you do that, because we haven't had anyone use Witch Sight in Symbaroum before, you see the dominant shadow of a creature, location, or object. You do suffer a temporary corruption when you use it, but temporary corruption, as long as you're not racking it up, it's not a problem.
Yes, I failed. I was trying to get a 7 or less. I got a 10.
Sure. You attempt to pierce the veil of reality with your the sight that you have that you still do not understand what it is or why you have it, but you fail. You're under a lot of stress right now. That's probably why. And you don't manage to see it. But note 1 temporary corruption on your sheet, please.
Yep.
I believe I'm right. Anton is the resident expert on corruption. All temporary corruption goes away at the end of a scene, right? Yeah.
That's right, yeah, at the end of a scene.
So it is the Clan Beast's turn now, and the Clan Beast is going to attempt to respond to Elindra's attack. And this is quite handy because we're kind of teaching Stephen the combat ropes here. So one of the things about Symbaroum, Stephen, is that GM does not roll. So what I want you to do is look at your defense. And essentially, you should have a defense stat. I want you to -1 from it, and then roll against it.
I'm just trying to find. Yes, okay. That -1.
It's probably equal to your quick, and equal to your quick. Oh, and it won't be modified by your armor because you also have man-at-arms.
Yes. So my defense is 13. It was in a separate box.
So you'll be rolling against 12 here because
I get 17.
Okay, never mind. In which case, do you want to give me an armor roll, please?
Sure. Now, I'm wearing medium armor, which with my men-at-arms skill is 1d8. So I just roll that, right?
Yep, just roll that.
Let's find the d8. 6.
6.
Nice.
Well, wonderfully for you, that is literally exactly what you needed to roll to take no damage. The creature screeches and swings round the other bladed appendage, and it scrapes across. I think in your picture you're wearing kind of like mail with a tabard and some leather pads like at the joints. It screeches across the mail, and kind of like you hear one of the mail links kind of ping, and snap and fly off, but it holds. And you're glad about it because the blow itself, you feel like the flesh of the impact underneath. This thing has just a terrifying amount of twisted strength to it. Steo. Spear in abomination, right?
Yeah, flanking unless it's too far away for me to make that decision.
I think at the moment it's so focused on Elindra. No, I think you can get a flank in as you. for people who are new, we have kind of like weird homebrew things around the flanking, including like a slight limitation on how many people can do it and like how it works. But for you just running up and engaging this thing straight off, I'm going to say, yeah, you can get a flank hit on it for the first strike for sure.
Let's go. Rolling accurate. Once again, +5. So rolling anything except 20. I rolled a 12.
There we go. I mean, you get an extra +2 on that attack roll for the flank as well. Not that you needed it, but that will give you an extra D4 to damage. So let me know.
My damage is D10 +1.
Mm-hmm. In fact, I think you roll against 16 normally, don't you? Because the spear
does actually
does give you an extra on your
Spear
hit.
of the Dead King. That's 4 + 1 is 5 plus my D4. 6 damage total.
6 damage total. That is over its pain threshold. Would you like an extra hit or to knock it down?
I'm going to knock it down, I think.
Okay, that's fair. So you dash in behind the thing, and let's say you kind of sweep around with the end of your spear, tripping it up and bringing it round again for a deep slash across its chest as it collapses to the ground. Sort of that stump that Alindra has left it with, desperately trying to hold in the coils that are slipping out from the gash you made, as it is still kind of scrabbling at you with the other bone blade and screeching uncomfortably. But it's definitely knocked down now. Anton, your turn.
I want to try out my new flail.
Absolutely. So I don't think that. Is there anything about hitting something prone? Is that at advantage? Yes, it is. So it's prone. So you get a +7 to your hit.
I will be going
still not guaranteed for
this.
Anton.
It's not guaranteed. No, I need. So I got 9. So you say +7, so it's 16 that I need, and I roll an 8.
Okay.
Nice.
Why don't you give us that damage
D10.
roll then, please? Yeah, it's a
It's a
D10
4.
now, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because a heavy flail it's more damage as well, right? For the heavy flail, is that right? Yeah.
I rolled 4.
Why don't you describe to us how Anton dashes into this fight? Kind of, does he yell anything, or is he kind of, how does he do that?
No, I don't think he does yell anything. I don't think that's Anton's style. But he might give a little look to Steo and Ascarai with a small smile on his face after he's done the duty of smashing this huge heavy metal ball into this creature.
And that's what you do. You give a great overhead swing of your flail. You are spot on, and between the heavy iron balls on the end of the chain and the cobblestones, the creature's head erupts open like an overripe melon on the ground, and it goes still very quickly. The old woman has been kind of pulled to her feet, and the man with the children is kind of desperately tugging at the back of the woman with the broom, who's sort of like looking over her shoulder and just has time to say thank you before they just disappear off into the dust cloud.
Can I use Beast Law on these things that we've just killed to see if I have any idea what they are?
You absolutely can. So why don't you give me a cunning roll, please?
Okay. I need a 10. So 50%. Nope, I got a 17.
Okay. Nothing immediately occurs to you. There are still sounds of screams and cries ahead of you further towards where the Fern Tavern was.
Let's go. Keep moving. Good work, Wolfsbane.
That's Anton, in case anyone was wondering. As you dash ahead, just ahead of you, only maybe 20 seconds after you start moving, it's chaos around you. You can tell there are more people moving around you than you can see within the cloud of dust, and you're kind of blinking in a desperate attempt to keep it out of your vision. But one individual who you are certain of is a man who comes staggering out of an alleyway ahead of you, kind of looks over to his right to see you and kind of gives a great intake of breath and kind of staggers forward and kind of, unless you're going to stop him, past and through onto the other side of you as he's looking just over his shoulder. Is anyone going to kind of stop him doing that in any way? I'm assuming not.
I'm going to look to what he's fleeing from.
Yep.
And as you do, 2 more of the clan beasts come out of the alleyway and wheel round with one of their kind of oddly pitched dual screeching cries. And can we have essentially the same fight again, please? Look, this is one of the things I said to John before this started. I hope you folks are up for a shit ton of combat. So, 2 more clan beasts ahead of you. Ascarai, go for it.
Okay, I'm going to take a shot at the closest one. I rolled a 12, so nothing special. And my damage is a 6 + 1, 7 damage.
7 damage. That is over its pain threshold. Do you want to knock it prone, or do you want to take another shot?
Take another shot. Seems to be going well with the shooting. I rolled another 12. So again, nothing special. And my damage, a 9 + 1, 10.
Oh my God.
One of the clan beasts kind of topples backwards with 2 of Ascarai's arrows in its chest and kind of is just flailing and screeching against the wall of the alleyway, but kind of losing its footing and slowly slipping down to, not quietly, in a protracted manner, very loudly die on the dust-covered alleyway ground. Elindra, assuming you're not moving Ascarai or anything, sorry. Oh, you're on mute.
Did my first hit go over its pain threshold, or did I shoot twice?
It did.
Okay.
Your first hit went over its pain threshold, and you killed it with the second shot.
But I'm wondering if I'm reading my ability to figure out if I can shoot again, or if it has to.
You might be able to. Yeah.
I'm trying to figure it out.
Isn't it against the same target? Did we have this discussion before?
We definitely had, and I think it is the same target.
It's marksman in the advanced player's guide, or rapid fire is. Yeah.
I think it doesn't. It is in the advanced play. I think it doesn't have to be the same target. The arrows are rolled separately and may, but do not have to be aimed at the same target.
Oh, okay then. Yeah.
You might not get a chance, Andrew.
Let's see. Go for it.
Okay. I'll roll another d20. I got a 6, and the damage is a 1. So +1, 2.
Well, I'll tell you, that's not over its pain threshold.
I'm kind of glad.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you're firing a lot of arrows in one round, and the last one just scores across the creature's bicep as it kind of comes tumbling towards your group and the man stood behind. Elindra, it is your turn.
I'm so feeling very grateful for there being something left to attack. We're in a dust cloud, which means that this may not be entirely obvious to people. But if they're looking right at me, they may notice that as I swing in for the attack, my sword is bathed in some kind of unholy looking flame. So just throwing that out there.
Sure.
Because
do we see this? I feel like
I don't know. Do you want it's up to Matt whether or not you want to roll to see if you happen to be looking that
we
way.
do have history with flamey swords. I think it's fair for us to have a look.
I think let's just have a vigilant roll for everyone to see if they notice this.
I make it if there's no modifiers.
There is none, no. Because I reckon it's a dust storm, but also it's flame, which is more likely to be seen through something like that. So
I make it, and I will be very confused about what's going on.
Sure.
Okay.
Why don't you describe what kind of what appearance the flame takes for us, please, Steve?
Let me see if I don't know if there's a description from the rules or if we can just kind of.
There isn't from the bit I just looked up, but
yeah, a malicious flame around the melee weapon.
Mm-hmm. So what color is it?
I'd sort of imagined it weirdly kind of dark, sort of blacks and kind of deep
Blacks
reds.
and purples and deep reds. That's very familiar for these people.
Unmistakably not privacy, I think.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. You charge forward with that, and that will cost you a certain amount of. Well, that's going to be a D4 of temporary corruption, I think, to use that, right?
Okie dokie. Let's do a D4. That's a 4.
What's your corruption threshold?
Where do I find this?
I will offer you take backsies if this goes over it, because it is your first time using it.
Rolling a 4 the first time is pretty. This is me trying to find my way around my own character sheet. I'm afraid.
Sure.
Should be right at the top. If it's
So
standard.
my corruption was initially listed as 6, and I've picked up 1 temporary corruption. And
Okay.
Oh, I don't have a stat for my corruption threshold, so we may need to.
Okay.
Is your corruption threshold like half your vigilant plus 1 or something like that? No, resolute.
Resolute.
My resolute's
And then
11.
it sort of rounds up, basically.
Yeah, I think that what you've put there as 6 with corruption is actually
That's
your
my
corruption
threshold.
Yeah.
So I started with 0 corruption. If I go ahead with this, I will have 5 temporary corruption.
Yes, which is fine. Don't use more.
Don't do it
this
again.
scene,
Okay.
until your temporary corruption goes away. But luckily for you, this ability you're using, Revenant Strike, it gives you this for the rest of the scene.
Yes.
This extra D4, right? It's not just on this. So
Correct.
that's great. So why don't you give me a roll to strike this clan beast, which is going to be
What's the modifier on that?
+5.
Oh, +5. Oh, yeah. Well, that's.
So
yeah.
you will hit it. You just have to check if you're getting.
I get a 5.
Okay.
Plenty.
Then why don't you roll your damage for me, which is going to be your normal damage plus a D4 for the Revenant Strike.
17 in total. Hang on, wait.
Hang on,
wait,
how?
Wait, no, that's completely.
Oh my god.
That's not a D12. I'm sorry.
Oh my
Go
god.
again. That was a D20 by accident. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's a 12. So
That's pretty good. Describe to me how you charge forward, like if you're using this Revenant Strike and stuff. Do you do anything to kind of activate it, whether that's actually something you need to do or not? Perhaps it's just what you think you need to do. Tell me how Alindra charges and how the sword in flame and so forth.
I imagine that the Revenant Strike is activated with probably some kind of wordless howl. I don't think there's any particular prayer or words that she uses.
Sure.
I think it's just a kind of a moment of like emotion.
Absolutely. And as you charge forward, you do this. The creature sort of leaps forward for you, and you duck, kind of like not ducking completely, but drop down to one side slightly. Bring your bastard sword overhead in a 2-handed strike, and but essentially, for the people behind, the sword seems to stop when it reaches the creature's pelvis. So the thing just kind of slicks off the side of Alindra's blade, kind of purplish, reddish, blackish flames licking at the sides of the wound, and the creature just rolls over and over on the ground. Alindra's made a mess.
A large burning mess. Okay.
We're good with the initiative there. Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Funny the difference about 50 XP makes, eh, folks?
Yeah.
I was worried looking at some of this combat. I'm not worried anymore. The man who kind of dashed around behind you sort of bows slightly and in a wheezing voice says, You are fortune hunters?
We're
You
city
look like
guard.
fortune hunters. Sorry, what did you say, Chris?
I'm just saying we're city guard.
You're plainly not city guard.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying to him.
Sure. He kind of looks across the four of you quizzically, including the changeling and the theurg, and says, well, whatever. If you have artifacts for sale, ask for Master Alaba at the Antique Plaza. I'll give you a nice price. I promise. And just kind of like waves his hand and dashes off away. back towards Toad Square.
How does it sound on the street?
It sounds much the same as it did. Ascarai, you have reached a moment at least of calm. If you want to roll for arrow recovery, that's absolutely fine now.
Okay.
But it's much the same. It looks like buildings ahead of you have just collapsed in on themselves. It looks like the only way forward may be down the alleyway that this man just dashed from which you can still hear the sounds of kind of creaks and cracks and the cries of the fearful and wounded.
We need to keep going to the fun. Or
Careful,
try to.
though. It doesn't seem like these buildings will hold much longer.
Then let's be quick.
So you dash down this alleyway, and the dust cloud around you now, it's really starting to settle, and everything just has this grayish orange haze around you as you're trying to make your way forward. And as you round the corner, you find yourself in what appears to be the remains of like a small, like a little courtyard, perhaps one at the rear of a building, or other. Like navigating this is almost impossible. You have generally you know you're within a block or two of the Fern, but you kind of don't know exactly where you are in Thistlehold, even those of you who've lived there for years. And as you round the corner, you see another 4 figures ahead of you in the dust. There are 2 of the clan beasts ravening and kind of like whipping their heads around, both of them still with their iron collars on, but these are attached to chains. And holding a clan beast each on the end of long chains are what look like, you think at first glance, they look just like normal humans. But as the dust blows aside ahead of you, you see that they themselves seem to have undergone whatever abominable corruption and process affected the others, but they have retained much more of their humanity. They stand erect. They are wearing very limited leather armor, and they turn to you with at least a rudimentary sense of intelligence still in their eyes. One of them gives a cry, and they release the chains on the clan beasts. And I think we'll end the session there. Seems like a nice little spot, doesn't it?
Really like that
You
fight
and
we
your
had for
cliffhanger.
10 minutes.
Yeah. So if you've got any comments or questions, folks, please pop them in the chat, and John will pop them up for us to answer for you. In the meantime, here's your lovely closing promo. There's a bunch of links down below. YouTube and Twitch, you're watching on one. Please check us out on the other. Give us a subscribe and a follow and all that stuff. It really does help, especially at the level we're at the moment. Like, just getting more people brings us to more people. There's also links to our social media. Please follow us on there and check them out. Links to our Discord, where you can join up for free. I say like there's any, but you can just join up by clicking the link and talk to us about everything role playing, everything telling tales. There's a link to our Patreon where you can support us if you like. We are again just starting out, so all support is welcome, and you can get access to the patrons only area of our Discord. You can get character creation videos and GM notes and all sorts of lovely stuff like that. We run 3 weekly shows, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Each one starts at 8 o'clock in the evening BST. That's 3 o'clock in the afternoon EST. Other time zones are available. Mondays is Call of Cthulhu, which Johnny runs. Tuesdays is Blades in the Dark, which is run by me. And Wednesday is, of course, Symbaroum. The first Saturday of every month, we also run a one-shot. That's like a big long one-session story. The next one is this Saturday, and that's going to be me running the One Ring, which is a Lord of the Rings role-playing game made by Fria Ligan. It's the new edition of it, for which an alpha is out, and we're using that. And I'll be adapting a story from the wonderful video game Lord of the Rings Online. If you want to catch us over on the Fria Ligan Twitch, we're also there every other Sunday running a Symbaroum story, which is like a spin-off to our main campaign, featuring some characters who these characters encountered at some point. We're actually reaching the close of that, and the finale is going to be a week on Sunday. But all the VODs and all the VODs for everything are over on YouTube, so please do check that out. Watch them all and love them. and all things like that. Cool. All right. Before we bring over any comments or questions, do you guys enjoy that? The Return to Symbaroum, Wrath of the Warden?
Yeah, really good.
It's
Really
like
happy to be
slipping back. It's like slipping back into a comfy dressing gown that's riddled with corrupt things.
Yeah. I have to say, the first time I read Wrath of the Warden, I read this opening section and I was like, they have got from the earlier stuff, which we've run, like, Copper Crown and things like that, is very kind of dark fantasy horror, sort of low level. And you go into this and it's like moving from Alien to Aliens. It's just like, holy shit, this has just turned into a big, intense, epic, action-y thing. Obviously, we're going to get some of the other stuff still. I wouldn't want it any other way, but yeah, it's a good opening, I think.
I can't imagine starting characters would fare too well.
You're meant to have 50 experience which we more or less have to start this. Yeah.
Oh wow, that was the barrier of entry.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it's lovely to have a little bit of gore to go with our grim dark.
Well, let me tell you, Stephen, you might be regretting saying that, as people occasionally say to me that my combat descriptions can turn a little bit sickly. So, we'll.
One detail Matt may have neglected is that we're approaching our first birthday here on the channel. Actually,
we are. We're about a month off, I think. It was the beginning of September we did it, so maybe we'll have something coming up for our birthday. Who knows? He said coyly, as if there was something in place, but he genuinely has no idea. Yeah, there we go. Cool. Why don't you start throwing questions and comments up for us, please, John? Assuming there are some. Does Steo still want a property in Thistlehold?
Well, it's not often you can get a new build in Thistlehold, so I think this is.
But the area will be gentrified. Like, do you really want that? You won't have that authentic Thistlehold violence and charm.
I was just shocked. I saw it in chat. It's like, how screwed are we where our character's wildest dreams is a secure place to live?
Hey, you just described my wildest dream.
Yeah, that's it's kind of like fantasy is now not having to pay a mortgage or rent.
21st century role playing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. What else we got, John? Cornelius, hello. Friend of the channel. Can't complain about a discount offer. We had a party member who made a deal with a blacksmith. He would go into combat and shout, "Wow, those weapons from Master X are so great. See how easily I slew those monsters in exchange for discounts." My name is Steo, and this is my favorite shop in Thistlehold. Yeah, discounts, saving, antiques dealers from monsters. Doesn't get better than that, I don't think.
That guy was definitely all about the business, fleeing from some horrific event and still trying to drum up some custom.
I think he was intending to pay you back in some way, rather than that. But hey, maybe he's just a cynical guy.
Sometimes Thistlehold just has a little twist of Ankh-More pork about it.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. What else we got? See John clicking away. Oh, what from John? I remember watching a video of someone proving how movable plate armor is by doing the cha-cha slide. Yes. Plate armor is extremely, if it's fitted, which it should be because it kind of doesn't work if it isn't, is extremely comfortable and maneuverable. I saw a obstacle course that was run, and this is a few years ago now. I'm sure you can still find it on YouTube, between someone in plate armor and someone in modern police gear, modern army gear, and modern firefighting gear. The plate armor crushed each and every one of them into the ground because it is form fitting, and it's one of these things mail is really light and plate is really the other way around, completely the other way around.
I like that it could crush them into the ground both figuratively and also probably
just throwing themselves at them. No, plate armor's really, really that. I mean, it's one of these things. Things in the past were really clunky, and then they wouldn't have used them, would they?
Yeah, you're going into a place where people are trying really hard to kill you.
Yeah, you want to be
able
to move.
What are you going to wear that's going to make you less likely to die?
Absolutely. Yeah. Cool. What we got next? Lord Malice, another friend of the channel. Does anyone want to change their price to a Colossi? Yeah, they are cool. They're very cool.
I don't think I got around to asking for a property, so.
No, but
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure you'll find her again. Everything will be fine, and everyone's going to get a house.
On the Colossi.
It's or a colossi, so it seems likely. We got anything else, John?
I'm going to call my one friend.
That's everything. I think I saw someone ask, I don't know who it was off the top of my head. I think I saw someone ask in chat about whether Throne of Thorns like directly follows on from Copper Crown. Was that addressed in chat? Did anyone like reply to that? If not, I'll reply. It doesn't necessarily immediately follow on. Copper Crown was released, I believe, more or less when Symbaroum was itself released, as kind of like little releases to give people a story to start with before the first installment of Throne of Thorns. They're not necessarily linked in any particular way other than Copper Crown acts as a good intro to Symbaroum, but conveniently they give you about 50 XP, which leads you quite nicely into the Copper Crown and the Thorn Throne are set. I don't know, 42, I don't know if you mean like to wear. Like you wear a Copper Crown and you sit on the Throne of Thorns.
Is there set bonus if we complete both of them?
No. And as for if they come as a set, as stories, they do not. And they don't necessarily lead into each other, but one is quite a good idea to do before the other.
Suppose they lead into each other mechanically, if not narratively.
They're designed that way, if not narratively. Cool. So I think that's everything. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for all of you for coming out and supporting the relaunch of Symbaroum. I hope you've really enjoyed it. Thank you to the players who I've had a blast with tonight. And thank you to John for, as always, being a wonderful stream manager. We will see you next Wednesday for more Symbaroum, folks. Take care and stay safe.